Yep.
Well, today is September 14th, and I think it's time we have a conversation with a good friend, Ken McCarty, who knows his way around the money block. I think that's safe to say. And welcome to our class 4400. New venture funding is what we're discussing today.
Right.
So thanks for being here, Ken. And you want to tell the students a little bit about yourself, what you've done, and
Yeah, so I'm probably one of the most conservative folks that you'll bring in front of your class. I know a lot of venture capitalists and angel partners, and all those are on your vocabulary list that the students have been researching. But a lot of people do investments with high risk, high reward. I'm basically looking for low risk and high reward. I want to find good return. I want the opportunity to grow my money. I want to do it safe. And I probably have a little different philosophy than some, because a lot of what motivates me at this stage of my life, I'm 70. I've been investing since my dad got me started when I was about 24, bought my first two homes, for both of them for $11,500 for two houses, if you can imagine, for investments. And so my focus now is more of get a decent return, but also help people and teach them a little bit of what I've learned, to help them along the way so that they can build a secure future. And most people that work by the hour or by the paycheck are not going to have a nice nest egg when they retire. So it's always nice to be building something for the future. And so I try to help that along the way. So that's kind of what's motivated me, both for myself and for the people I work with.
This is a little slightly off subject, because what the class is really talking about is they need to go out and raise money, learn
Right.
how to go out and raise money. Okay. But at the same time, just what you're saying, the importance of personal investing. There was a chart that came up a number of years ago that showed if somebody who was in their early 20s put aside, I think it was like $100 a month or something, or I don't remember the exact number. I'm sure they can go online and find this, and then invest, and then get an investment of 10%.
Right.
And at the end of, and consistently do that over time period, at the end of 7 years, stop putting any more money into it and just let the investment earn itself as it goes.
Double every 7 years. Yeah.
By the time they retire, they'll have over $1 million in the bank.
It's crazy. Yeah. I used to do that with my kids when I'd go through the drive-through to buy the Burger King $1 Whopper, back in the day when you and I could get them. And if you bought the whole meal, it was like $5, but if you bought a Whopper, it's $1. So I'd tell them, all right, that $4, and exactly what you said, by the time they get their inheritance, I used to figure it out, it would be like $28,000. I'd tell them, I'd say, if you want to get a $1 hamburger, then when you get your inheritance, it'll be 48,000 higher instead of buying the $4, because it's absolutely crazy what that money will do over the course of 50 years. So it's interesting how saving money is sometimes the best way to make money.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is I sent you the vocabulary list of what I've sent these poor students. They've been succumbed to and have been beaten up by me on this vocabulary list.
Right.
And what I wanted to know, if there are any words that I left off of it that you would like to add to it.
I went over the list and I thought it was pretty inclusive. I think part of it, and I have shared this with you in the past and like to share it with your class, is that I've just learned over years that knowing the right words to speak in any setting, especially if you're looking to borrow money to do a project or to fund a project, people will judge you by what words you use as far as knowledge. And if you can give yourself a leg up in using some of the words on your list, and I went through it pretty detailed. I'm afraid to click on it now. I don't know if it's going to make you do you lose me if I do that, or am I still on?
You're still on.
Okay, so just looking through your list as I went through it, I loved some of the ways, and I know that you have given me the actual definition of those words, but
And all the students have access to that.
oh, they've all seen your definitions,
Yes.
like with bootstrapping and capital, and but it seems simple when you see some of these words, but if you don't know what a C corp is, or you don't know what a chapter 11 or chapter 13 or chapter 7 bankruptcy is, all of those are critical in developing a element of trust. And the one thing I've learned over the years is that the trust that you develop on the first impression is the one that's going to stick with that person as long as that relationship exists. And it's really hard to change that if they don't think that you have a knowledge or understanding of business. So is there words that I would add to your list? I think, you know, one of the things you were talking about, and I'm not sure, again, there were 70 of them. I tried to go through them and I can't remember if this was discussed, but the capital appreciation, is that on there? Where you can, no. Okay, so capital appreciation to me is what you were talking about, the saving the dollar year, you know, for the early part of your life, kind of setting up a plan of saving. But capitalization of your investment is probably one of the key words that I have found has helped me succeed. And that is what I can do. Now you have different things there as far as cap rate. I saw some of the ones on return on investment. You know, you have a lot of those that are discussed in there. But when you look at your individual opportunity costs, do you have opportunity costs in there?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good. No.
So opportunity costs for me, if I were to add that to the list, is what can I do with my money? And the one thing that I've learned over the years is that anytime before I make an investment, I always look at my choices. In other words, okay, I can buy this house for $180,000. It has the potential of flipping and so forth, and I can get a cap rate of such and such. And before I make that investment, I always pursue what else can I buy for that same money? And what can I do better that would give me a better return or a safer return or a quicker return? So before even though it might look like a great investment, I never start it until I have weighed all my options.
So, you know, that's another way for, I think, as not just students, I'm talking about anybody who's out looking for money. They've got to remember that these investors have other choices.
Right.
And you have to have kind of look around at what else they could do with their money. And is there really an investment opportunity that's worthwhile for an investor in the project you're doing? So I think that needs to be part of the discussion in your mind.
Well, and that it leads into some of your other key words, collateral. You know, what is collateral? And when you go to a individual for money, whether they're an investor or an angel partner or whatever they might be, whatever relationship it is, and in what I do when I teach young people to get started in life is I offer them opportunities. You know, I might go to somebody and say, I want to help you get started, and I'll come up with the down payment on the home. Here'll be one of your charts that you might want to use in your class. But take this example. If we take a $150,000 home as an investment, and I tell them I'll come up with $30,000 because you don't have a down payment, so you're going to pay rent for the next 3 years while you're going to school of $1,000 a month. which is $12,000 a year, $36,000 by the time you graduate, and you'll have zero to show for it. So a $36,000 investment, you walk out, you load up your couch and your desk and your whatever, and your backpack, and you're out off on your next venture after you've graduated from college. And so you spent 3 years that spent $36,000 to finish your education. This is usually a couple that got married after the first year of school or whatever. So what can you do besides that? So if we found this $150,000 home, I say, I'll give you the $30,000 down. You and your wife can take the payments on it, but on $120,000 interest only, Mark, you got your calculator there? I'll tell you right now, you can get a interest only loan for about 3%. So 3% of 120,000. I'm going to actually do this while we're talking here, so I can actually give you a good number. So 120.
That's good. They've got their calculators as well, and can write all this down.
Yeah. So 120,000 times 0.03 is going to be, it's going to be $3,600. You divide that by monthly payments. Your payment is $300 a month. And if you have taxes and insurance at 100, you're paying $400 a month. So instead of 1,000, you're paying 600 or 400. I'm sorry. So you're saving 600 a month. So it's 600 a month times 36 months, right?
Right.
You've saved $21,600 over what your rent would have been of 30. We just said it a minute ago, 36,000. So $21,000 that you've saved in rent at the end of 3 years. And I always counsel them to put that in the bank. You know, instead of paying rent, just put it in the bank. You would have spent it anyway. And then when we sell the unit, we bought it for 150, we sell it for 200, and we split the profit 50-50. So they get 25,000 plus the 21. I'm just trying to show you, Mark, the benefit of trying to think ahead on how to benefit from my situation. Because I'm going to live in this area for 3 years. I'm going to pay $1,000 a month for rent. All right, what are my other options? If I could get somebody to help me with the down payment, all of a sudden I've changed my whole course of my future. Instead of walking out of college with zero, I walk out of college with $46,000 that I can now use to buy my first home and to get settled into some place. So it is absolutely life-changing for a student to walk away with zero versus $40,000. And that can happen. And then what I tell them is, Mark, when I talk about, look at your resources, what's available to you. Most people don't stop to take stock of what do I have available. Do you remember the model they used to use when the astronaut couldn't clear the air in the Apollo 13? They laid all the material out and tried to figure out how they're going to clean the air so they wouldn't, die of asphyxiation in Apollo 13. And they laid all these things on the table and said, okay, how are we going to make this filter that'll clean the air so we can get these astronauts back to Earth? And you've seen different projects and classes at college where they'll say, we want to solve this problem. We'll put 3 of you at the table. You have to use these certain tools to make it happen. And what I like to do is to get young people to start thinking out of the box and say, is that on your list, by the way, out of the box?
No, that's good. Good.
So thinking out of the box is kind of coming up with a radical solution that not everybody's doing. So it might be 1 in 10,000 students that take advantage of what I just shared with you. Instead of living in a rental, they find a way to get down payment money, which could be hard money, or it could be a partner, like with my situation. Because when I leave, I don't charge them any interest on the 30,000. I just take half of whatever we make on the deal. I might make 10,000, I might make 20, it doesn't matter. But at the end of 3 years, we sell the property and we split the profit. And I put up 30 and they make the payments while they live there. We make sure the place looks nice when it's time to sell it. But the concept is thinking out of the box, being creative with your investment strategy and starting young enough that you can have time work for you. Most people decide they're going to wait till later in life to make these investments, but the sooner you can get those started, the stronger you're going to be financially. You get a comment?
Well, what's going to happen in that is by going through this exercise, and I'm going to say to all the students watching this right now, they really need to go back over what you just talked about a number of times. I don't know if your math was perfect right on, doesn't matter. It's still going to come out very, very close to what you're talking about, and to learn the concept and learn the methodology. And then when they go out and actually do it, they're going to learn so much faster. And as they're into it, they're going to start developing habits and mental habits on how to deal with their investment life. That alone is going to be worth even more than the $40,000 they might make.
So true. And it's just learning how to develop a plan and then implement the plan. So once I present this to a young couple, I'll talk to them about this concept that I'm happy to put up the 30. I'll make some good money. I'll probably make, 15, 20% a year for the 3 years that my money's out. If I put in 30 and get 25 back, that's 100% return. And in 3 years, that's 30% a year. I mean, it's like crazy for me, but it's not taking advantage of them, because now instead of leaving college with zero, they leave with 30 or 40 grand. But what I tell them is you don't have to deal with me. If you learn the concept of presenting this idea that I just shared with you, and this is part of what you're talking about, how do you benefit from the knowledge you gain financially in your future life? Go to your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa, your parents, and if you can lay it out to them and say, here's what you're getting. Right now in the bank at the credit union, you are getting 0.5% on your $30,000. And what that means, Grandma, is you are making literally $150 a year on your $30,000 investment. So if I give you half of my profit when we move and leave, you'll be making, but most grandparents are more willing to help the kids. So you could just say, if I'm giving you 5%, that's $1,500 a year instead of 150 a year. You're getting 1,500, 5 times that or 10 times that. And it just shows them that they can get a much better return and a much stronger plan. And they're in a strong position because they can have a trustee on the property to protect their investment, and they're not putting themselves at risk.
Well, on top of that, if you happen to be one of the older grandchildren, you can say, look, Grandma, Grandpa, in 3 years, you'll have back this much money, and
Right.
You can use that to fund the other grandchildren as they come along, and you will be the sainted grandma and grandpa forever.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, you can make it fun. You can make it real. You don't have to take advantage of people. You can be very generous because you both are going to be in a position. And then the question is, what if it doesn't make a lot of money? So what? You've had a great experience. Let's say you only make $5,000 at the end of 3 years. That's better than, you still made $21,000 on the other side of the ledger where you saved $600 a month in rent, and your grandma got a decent return on her money. So, and I'm not saying do business with family. Sometimes that's good news. Sometimes it's bad news. But I am saying, look at all your options. And even though I'm offering this or saying, well, Ken McCarty can't help 40 kids in this class, my comment is you can literally look for other investors and get creative. You can go on Marketplace, and use that. I'm going to be in town for 3 years. I want to buy a piece of real estate. Austin, this is you now thinking about this. You're driving along in your car listening in. But if you want to make an investment, run a little ad on Marketplace. Hey, this is an opportunity for you to invest in your future. I'll put up my home for collateral while I live here, and then we'll share the profit when you leave. You can have a lot of fun with these different approaches.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Ken. Now, the biggest reason I ask you on is you deal in, and this is sort of along that same line, you deal with the whole hard money community.
Yeah.
You've done it, you know it, and you understand it. let's talk and define it very quickly. What is hard money?
Okay, so hard money, and for most people, it sounds close to usury, because it's a higher interest rate. Often people are looking for short-term money, but they need cash. And quite frankly, in the real estate market and in other areas of life for investments or starting business, cash is king. If you're trying to buy a building to start a business or you're trying to buy products, go ahead. Did you want to?
We better define usury. I don't know if that's well used today.
Yeah.
What is usury?
Usury is where most states, like the state of Utah, has a 10% cap on what you can charge for interest without a contract. Now, if you have a contract with an individual, you can charge a larger amount. And normally hard money is 12%. That's kind of the rule of thumb that you're going to hear from most people. Some people charge a lot more than that. But conceptually, this is how it works. So here is hard money. And let's use my example I used a minute ago. So let's say that you don't have a sugar daddy that's going to partner with you for the $30,000. So let's say you needed $30,000 for a year to do a flip or to do a down payment on a house or something. So the hard money, $30,000, 10% would be $3,000, 2% would be $6,000. So it'd be, or 600. So it'd be $3,600 to borrow $30,000 at 12% for a year. But if you could make $20,000 for that same $3,600 in interest, the hard money lender makes $3,600. He's safe. He's got a guaranteed return. He's got collateral to protect his hard money investment. But you have the potential to make $20,000 by using his money with the concept I showed you. And so you would make way more than he's going to make as a hard money lender, but you put yourself at a greater risk. So the hard money lender is normally wanting to be very well solid, protected, has some collateral. What's collateral, Mark? I'll let you help me on this.
That's them.
Yeah. Collateral. It could be the individual. Good point.
Well, I'm saying the students should know that, but collateral, of course, is like your home or some kind of an asset.
Right.
It's got to be some way. It's a transferable asset that you could use to back up the loan that you're seeking.
Could be a title.
I actually have a quick question about collateral, if I can cut in.
Yeah, Austin, go ahead.
So with, say I wanted to put up a truck that I own, or a truck that I have financed for collateral. If it's not my truck, like it's still technically the bank's truck, can I put that up for collateral? Is that not?
Well, let me tell you how that works. So let's say that you have a truck and it's worth $25,000. Let's say you owe the bank $15,000, which means you have another word that we want to use is equity. You've got a $10,000 equity in that truck. So you have a $25,000 asset. You owe the bank 15. Your equity is 10,000, meaning I have 10,000 of free money. So you could come to me or somebody else and say, I'm going to put you up. They call it a second ownership title. You can actually add a person to a title. They'd be in second position on your truck, but then they would have protection that if something were to go bad and they had to sell the truck, they would get the equity off of. So the bank would be paid first and the lender. Does that answer your question, Austin?
Yeah, totally. So you can only do it for the amount of equity that you have in the asset?
Yeah. So your extra equity could also be used for collateral.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You bet. So, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, that's an important concept using the second deed of trust. Is some people may want to loan you money and you may put the collateral, but that second deed of trust means that if your home gets a second and you don't make your payments and the bank is forced to sell your home, they're in the first position. So that means everything that they sell for that home is, let's say it's a $500,000 home, right, and there's a $300,000 first deed of trust on it. and you have a $50,000 second deed of trust, and they can only sell it for $250,000, that $250,000 goes to the bank, and you, as a holder of the $50,000 second deed, you don't get anything.
Yeah,
So,
if only the first mortgage is paid off and it doesn't have any surplus, then you're left out in the cold. So you do have to protect your ownership equity. But you made a good point a minute ago, Mark, and I think it's for the students need to understand this. Most investors actually do consider the person they're dealing with as a form of collateral, and it has to do with integrity. And so when you build your line of credit, whether it's your credit rating, your credit card, your payment on your truck, your payment for rent, your payment on your medical bills, that is the trust level that the investor, especially on a hard money lender, they want to know that they're going to get their money back. And a lot of it depends on your character. And one of the things that I used to use when I would buy property when I was young, 25, 26 years old, the age of some of your guys in your class, when I didn't have any down payment. So I would go to an older couple and I'd say, are you tired of managing property? Are you tired of taking care of these things and leaky faucet? I'm young, I can go do that. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Number one, you can sleep at night. You're going to know that Ken McCarty is going to make his payments every month on time. And I will make sure, no matter what I do, I get you paid on time every month. I'm going to take care of your property. It needs painted, it needs fixed up, it needs new carpet. I'm going to improve it. So I would give them, and that becomes a very comforting feeling for an older couple that wants to get rid of management headaches and they're ready to retire and travel and do some things different. They've owned this duplex forever. So if they sell that duplex, they're going to have a huge tax hit. They're going to have to take that cash they've been getting a nice return on, put it in the bank at 0.5% interest instead of 7 or 8 or 10% like you've been getting on your property. So a lot of times young couples, if I'm teaching a class like this, I'd say, go to the Zillow and start looking at property for sale by owner. And if I can actually teach them, and I'm happy to do that in a separate session, you know, if they want to come on and do a little other Zoom and record it with me. But I can teach them how to go to those people and make a presentation to say, hey, you're going to be so much better off selling this to me on a long-term contract. Number one, you pay your tax over time. Number two, you get the long-term capital gains benefit. Number three, you get interest income instead of just dumping it in the bank at 0.5%. I'm going to give you 4%. So you can make it very attractive to them to let you buy it, let them carry the contract. And I did that with literally nothing down in a lot of property. I owned 40 properties in Oregon by the time I was 35. And I did it by just doing a lot of what I'm telling you right now. I just went out and started talking to people. I had an older guy that wanted to get out of the business, and I bought 8 fourplexes from him at $73,000 each, and he carried the contract. So those are now worth $550,000 each, and I rented them for $200 a month. Now they're renting for $1,000 a month. I sold them a long time ago, so I'm not getting that. But the concept is you can be creative. And if there's anything I learned in life, and if I were to share anything with your students that was a valuable thing for them to have in their quiver of future benefits and their security nest egg, is be creative. Look for the things that nobody else is doing, because you all of a sudden come to the surface when it comes to meeting this older couple and telling them that I'm going to take care of your property, you can retire, I'm going to make sure you're protected, and be honest and be fair.
Let's go back to and some more of the definition of hard money.
Right.
Let me give you an example, and I want you to analyze it.
Okay.
This is a true story. It took place about a year and a half ago. A friend of mine who does hard money lending,
right,
was approached by a group out of Park City. And they were wanting to buy a piece of property, an ideal piece of property for a commercial real estate.
Uh-huh.
And it had been listed at $6 million.
Okay.
And because it was a partnership split up, there were some divorces involved, whatever else it was, the people wanted to get rid of it in a fast sale at like $3.5–4 million. Let's say
okay.
$4 million.
Okay.
Well, they only had, and the people wanted $4 million cash, no terms. Okay.
They wanted to get rid of it. They wanted to get out of it. And they wanted to split it up so there was nobody in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys had $3 million in cash in the bank. And so they were $1 million short. Now, keep in mind that that property was appraised at $6 million. So
Right.
it was legitimate. It was worth $6 million. They were willing to sell it for $4 million. These guys only had $3 million. So they went to my friend and said, we need $1 million. Can you loan it to us? And he came back and said, and he actually went out to a number of his friends who are in a community of hard money lenders.
Right.
And they each put money into this pool, and they had ended up with $1 million. And for that, the fee was the following. And then I'll let you analyze this whole thing.
Okay.
The fee was, it was 10 points down.
So they wanted 10 points up front, which is 100,000.
And they wanted 22% interest guaranteed, and so that it would be 1 year's guaranteed interest.
Whether they paid off early or not, they would get a minimum of 220,000.
Exactly, and it was a 1 year loan. 1 year, and it could be at a mutually agreed upon option. They could extend it for another 6 months.
So we're talking $320,000 of hard money benefit. In other words, I'm going to give you $1 million cash. At the end of 12 months, I'm going to get back $1,320,000, which is a 32% return on my investment. 22 plus the 10 points up front. Now, the reason that's not usury is the contract. Yeah.
But before they do that, we've got to make sure we're very clear. Define what points are.
So points are money that you pay up front. Most banks charge points when you set up a loan. Banks are normally 0.5% or 1%. So a 1% point means you're paying interest in front of your loan. So points are really a form of interest that are paid early on. And the reason that's a little more beneficial to the lender is you're getting it up front. So it's kind of like, I'm not waiting a year to get my interest. You're actually paying me before the loan starts. So you're paying me money to get the money. So 10 points is a very high rate of return for points on a loan. So 10 points would be 1% per point. So a 10-point loan on that $1 million would be $100,000, or excuse me, $100,000. And then the 22,000.
So how do I pay that? How do I pay that?
So normally on a hard interest loan, you actually add it into the contract. So it's the borrower normally doesn't have 100,000, or he wouldn't be coming to you. So he's saying, I'm going to borrow $1 million, but I'm going to add that into my loan. So I'm really borrowing $1,100,000. And
exactly.
It depends on how you negotiate that. The points could either be freed from that loan, so it just stays at 10 all the way for the year. Some lenders try to make you pay interest on the points, which is double interest, which that is a form of usury. You're not supposed to pay interest on interest. So technically you'd have 110,000, but if you agree to the 22% on the principal amount of, I hope I'm not losing you guys on the students here, but if you have $1 million at 22%, that's 220,000. So if you write the contract correctly, at the end, the lender should be getting back $1,320,000. That should be the end of the loan. Now, why is that beneficial? So on a hard money loan, in the example you just used, they didn't get the property for $4 million, right? They got it for $4,320,000. They would have got it for $4 million, but because they had to borrow money at 320,000 to use it for a year, it was 4,320,000. Now for the hard lenders, they got a nice return. That's 32%. So let's
And how
figure out
secure was that?
what's
And
that?
how secure was that?
Well,
How
very,
risk-free? How much
yeah.
risk
So
did they have?
so the lenders, because the other people put up $3 million in cash, that's like a no-brainer as far as a investment for me, because if I only have to put up $1 million and I've got a $6 million asset and I'm the first trustee owner, sign me up, Mark. That's about as safe as you can get. So the other thing that you call it is a percentage of ownership per loan. So for example, in that case, if you have a $4 million loan, or the property's worth 4 million or 6 million, and you own 400,000 against it, that would be like a 60 or 70% loan ratio. You have loan ratio in your terms. So a loan ratio, if you have a $1 million loan and there's a $500,000 lien against it, that's a loan ratio of 50%. So a 50% loan ratio is a very good protection, because I've got a lot of fluff in equity to protect myself. The one example you're talking about, I loan $1 million and I'm first trustee on a piece of property that's worth 6 million. I'm in heaven, because that's like a 1 to 6. What is that? 20% loan ratio. In other words, it's 80% protection for me. If something goes bad and I have to sell it to get my money out of it, I can sell it tomorrow morning for $1 million or $1 million.
So it was a great deal for the hard money person.
Yeah.
Meaning, here's the important thing about a great deal. A great deal means the hard money lender was motivated,
yeah,
to make the loan.
Yeah.
And how long, let's say you and I sat down and we were negotiating this deal today and we got it finished. How long is it going to be? 2-3 months in order to do the paperwork and to get it all filed and everything? How long is it going to take to close this loan?
In a bank, it would be 2 or 3 months. With a hard lender, they can close it in a week. I mean, they literally basically record the paper and give me your check. Once I get protected on the deed, a lot of my properties are closed within 7 to 10 days on a hard money loan. But if you're working with a bank, it's literally 3 or 4 months. So the iron is hot to strike on these people that want to buy this property and the people that want to sell it. But that could all change in 2 weeks or 2 months or it ruins the deal. 9 times out of 10, somebody gets sick and dies, or something happens if you drag this thing on for months or years trying to make a deal work. So the opportunity of making that happen normally has to act very quickly with hard money. So if I'm a hard money lender, normally, now your case is a little different, so it might take a month or so, because you had a lot of investors they had to pull together to make that $1 million work, right?
No. He had the investors he needed in a half an hour from when he sent out the email to them.
Okay.
Because they all saw that the debt ratio was so outrageous that if they had to go and foreclose on the place, they would have made
no risk.
5 times.
Right. Yeah. In fact, if you want to be a good hard money lender, you're usually hoping the guy doesn't pay you back. It's kind of like, hey, I'm so strong in this position that, I mean, I want him to succeed, but I could care less if he doesn't, because I'm well protected.
But now, is this a good deal or for the person that was seeking the loan, these guys with the $3 million, or are they being taken advantage of by an unscrupulous lender?
Well, I mean, that's a very high rate of return, but he had to act quickly. So here's my philosophy on that, Mark. What would you get if you don't make the deal? So if this guy that wants to buy it for $4 million, that ended up having to buy it for $4.3 million, if he doesn't buy it, he ends up with zero. If he buys it, he has a $6 million asset that he has $4.3 million in instead of $4 million. It would have been nice if he had the extra million himself, but he didn't. So he's got $4.3 million invested. So how much profit's that? 4.3 to 6 million is 1.7 million. All right, class, where's your calculators? So let's just see who made the most return. So we got 1.7 million, right? 1,700,000. 1,700,000. And remember what the investor put in. How much did the investor actually put in? He put in 300,000. I mean, 3 million. He borrowed the other. So out of his pocket, he made a $3 million investment. Is that true, Mark?
Yep.
So you have 1,700,000 in profit. My calculator's going slow, Mark. Use yours. 1 million. I got it going now. 700,000, which is the difference between 4.3 and 6. Is that correct?
No.
All right. So I got 1,700,000 divided by, what did I put in it out of my pocket? 3 million. You're not counting the other. You put 3 million of hard money out of your own pocket, right? So
Yep.
3 million. And I'm going to tell you the return he got. I just told you that the other guys are getting 32%. This is the percent of return that the other guy gets. So the investor, so the hard money people made 32% on their money. Guess what the purchasers made on their investment? 56% return in that 1 year.
Actually,
go ahead.
Actually, that's not quite true because I haven't finished the story.
Oh.
That's their preliminary thing. But what they did is they bought it with their one company, and then they sold the property for $6 million to another company that they own that was in the process of developing a strip mall out of it.
Right.
And so they purchased from these guys, from their one company, the property for $6 million. What the appraised value was.
That's the 56% return. The first
That's
sale.
56%. And now they have a piece of land free and clear that they are able to build their new property on. That they turned around, they built that new property on it, and they had the land as the equity in order to borrow the money to build that strip mall on it. And they ended up selling the strip mall for $30 million.
Oh my gosh.
And which was about a $4 or $5 million profit for them. So in other words, by doing this, they ended up with about $10 million in profit they wouldn't have had. And it cost them $300,000 to do it.
So the hard money lenders, which sounds like they made a fortune, made a pittance compared to what the investors made. Yeah.
And so I think the lesson out of this whole hard money thing, and students, as you listen to this, it probably ought to go back and slowly listen to what the whole thing that Ken and I have been talking about it, and do the numbers for yourself and figure them out for yourself. That's where you're going to learn the most. In the end, the hard money is I'm not here advocating hard money.
No, I understand.
I'm here giving you, as a student, another option when it comes to raising money for a business. This can sometimes be an option that you need to understand, and it's really quite comprehensible, but it might take a little bit. It took me several times before I got it.
Yeah.
So do the same thing.
Well, and then go back to our original discussion. This is a perfect way for your class to kind of show how it works for them. The $5 million, $6 million deal may be out of their realm, but the $30,000 down payment partnership is in their realm. And let's use the same concept with the percentage return. Here's a student that literally takes zero out of his pocket on the example I was using, because all he's going to do is save $600 a month in payment on rent. No money out of his pocket, and walks out with 46,000. That's a 46,000% return on your investment of zero. It's not like they put up 3 million. They put up nothing.
Yeah.
So the return potential is, even though this one sounds wonderful, what you just talked about, there are so many ways that you can make money and get a good return. And that's technically it's using hard money. because you are partnering with somebody that's saying, I want to get my return out of the future return of this property. And so you are essentially giving them a hard money return. But it also gives you the potential of making huge money with very little investment out of your own pocket, which most of these students don't have. They don't have the 10 or 15,000 sitting in the bank that they can invest. So it gives them the opportunity to make money by using other people's money.
Let me ask Austin, since we have him here. Austin, any questions? Do you have any concerns, anything at all that you want to bring up right now?
Yeah, I had one question. When you were talking about getting protections as a hard money investor, like once you get those protections on the contract, then then it's a super safe investment and everything. When you're talking about those protections, are you running these contracts through a lawyer, or do you kind of just know what you're looking for and what you need to look out for?
When I do mine, I've done enough of them with backing of a lawyer or title company or an escrow company. So I pretty much know what I want to put in there. And you can get trust deeds from online, that give you the same protection. Like Utah gives you a free earnest money agreement. It gives you a free trust deed document that you can use. I'm not saying don't use an attorney. I think that if you want to make sure you're safe, that's probably a good investment. You may want to check on LegalZoom or something and pay $50 instead of $500 to get the same documents that you're going to get an attorney to do. But
Right.
At the same time, you need to be dealing with, if you're dealing with a escrow company to do the closing on a property, or a hard money loan where I'm doing a first trust deed with somebody, then the escrow company, which is paying a title insurance fee and an escrow fee, will normally protect you for a pittance of what an attorney is going to cost you. And they do it all as part of their package. They just give that to you as part of their deal. So if you're dealing on the up and up and they do a research on the property, Austin, to make sure nobody else owns a piece on it in front of you, that there's no IRS liens against it, and you're protected in your security, then I'm normally pretty comfortable just going with a trust company. But I'm not discouraging you from using an attorney, but I mostly write my own documents.
Gotcha. Right on.
Austin, let me ask you, do you understand what Ken was talking about, an escrow company or a trust company?
I have definitely heard escrow before. I, to be honest, couldn't define it for you now.
Yeah,
Okay,
so go ahead. You want to define it, Mark?
This could save every student at least $300 to $500, just right out of the chute, that you ought to use for something, investing in something else. But the word escrow and trust, they're kind of synonymous. What they mean is it's an independent organization that is licensed and bonded in order to say all that. And you put your money in with instructions on when it can be released, and the other person puts their title in or money in with instructions on when it's released. And when both parties sign a document that say the conditions have been met, then the escrow company takes the money out and gives it to whoever the instructions are.
And
Ken,
they give like if it was a hard money lender, Mark, the escrow instructions would take the money and give it to Austin, and then they would give the hard money lender the contract. So you're right. So it'd be a transfer, and you have a referee in the middle that's fair to both parties.
And these companies are extremely conservative, extremely careful to make sure that all the documents are done correctly. And that's why Ken said many of them have documents there that they'll let you use because they've been through their attorney, they've been proven, and they want your business, so they'll give that to you.
Right.
That makes sense, Austin?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it gives you a way to do a deal with somebody without having to go hire an attorney for $1,000 and generate a lot of money, and you're still well protected, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when you were doing those low, like not lower end deals, but when you got talking to people who were tired of managing their properties and stuff, were you doing those deals through an escrow account like that, or were you
Yeah.
doing
So
them
what I would do is I would normally go meet with them, talk to them, and then I would write up a offer to purchase. So back in my day, nowadays a earnest money agreement's like 2 or 3 pages. It's pretty complicated. And when I was doing mine, older people would get very frustrated trying to read 3 pages of fine print. So I would just type up an offer to purchase, and I'd make it very simple. I'm going to give you $100,000 for your fourplex. Here's the interest rate I paid, Austin. 10% is what I paid in interest back in those days. So
Right.
10% interest, and I'm going to pay you off in 15 years. But a lot of times on hard money or other loans, like Mark was talking about, if you tried to amortize $100,000 over 1 year or 2 years, the payment would be astronomical. You couldn't afford to get that property. So what they call, this is a good thing to learn too, Mark, for your students, is they call it a 40-year pay in two. So what you do is you amortize it for 30 years or 40 years. So the payments are very low, but it's due in 2 years. So there's a balloon payment. You're either going to fix the property and sell it, Austin, do a flip, or you're going to tell these people, I'm going to refinance it in 2 years and pay you off. So some people that want to get paid off soon, then you can, the advantage of that is you can fix the property up. You buying it for 300,000 a fourplex, and you can fix it up and make it worth 500,000. And now when you finance it, you have to pay them off 300 plus the 50 you put into it, but now it's worth 500,000. You've already got 150,000 in equity. So the bank looks at you like, yeah, I'll loan that to you. I'll loan you 350 on a $500,000 asset, no problem. So when you talk to these people, it's basically showing them that you're going to improve their property. They're going to carry the contract. And in all honesty, I mean, I'm happy to help you, but your title company could do the same thing. They could write the trust deed, and they call it a promissory note that you'd have in addition to the trust deed. And all those documents are available through your title company.
Gotcha.
And Ken, would you mind giving them your email address if they have a question for you?
Be happy to have you get a hold of me. My email is KR McCarty, McCarty 60 at gmail.com, krmccarty 60 at gmail.com. And, or you can text me at 801-360-5772, Ken McCarty. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer personal questions or discuss personal investment opportunities. I love teaching people how to get ahead in life. All 3 of my children, one of them passed away, but I have 2 children, and I told each of them, my son is a principal of an elementary school. My daughter married a young man that's in computer skills. But I told both of them the same thing my dad told me is, hey, if you want to have something for your future, you better start now and get them paid for. So my daughter has 10 rental units that are almost paid off. My son has 12 rental units, and he's a long way toward getting them paid off. And, you know, they'll have 10,000 a month income when they're 50 years old, whether they want to work or not, $10,000 a month coming in off their rental. I always tell young people like you, Austin, how old are you, Austin?
25. No,
Yeah,
sorry, 26.
Yeah, so 25, 26 years old, that's what I started at, buddy. I started at 24. I bought my first 2 homes on contract with nothing down. And if you could get yourself with 2 or 3 rentals, that will pay you more than any pension or Social Security or any other future income that you're going to have. Because those rentals in your lifetime will probably be paying you $1,500 a month. That's $4,500 a month for 3 rentals, and you could have them paid for in full by the time you're 40 years old in 15 years. And that's a huge check that you're getting, $60,000 a year off your rental income, whether you work a day of your life or not. So I just encourage you to start now. the time value of money is incredible when you're your age, because there's so much you can do to prepare for your future while you're young.
Right.
And what we're talking about here is not rocket science. In fact, what Ken has been describing, for some it might feel like you're getting information out of a water hose, fire hose, excuse me. But at the same time, you can go back and listen to this several times and get it. But I know virtually every one of my students at UVU is infinitely capable of understanding this stuff very quickly, and it's a matter of implementing it. And I think, Ken, what you're talking about here is learning some of the fundamentals and then just doing a little something and start building it up slowly. And as you do that, your mind starts to get creative. Yeah. And you start finding all kinds, and I haven't told them this, but Ken and I have brainstormed on a number of projects, and we've come up with some wild ways of doing things that have been very profitable. Right. And it's just a matter of getting your mind into that mindset. I can say it.
Fertile, or something will grow. Well, right.
Our hour is about up. I wanted to keep this to about an hour. Didn't want to use your time, and everybody's attention span is about as much as mine is anymore. So any last words you'd like to say to the students?
You know, I appreciate the opportunity, Mark. I'm glad that you have this audience with your class to teach them these principles. And my counsel to your class members is do something. Don't just take this information and stick it in a folder and move on to your next class. Mark is giving you an opportunity here to set your future in motion for a solid financial foundation. And if you'll just take one or two nuggets of what we've talked about today and do something with it, Austin, whether it's find somebody that wants to let you carry the contract and they'll let you buy the house from them and take care of it, or let them manage it, you share in the profit. There are just numerous ways you can make money, but do something is what I'm going to say. If you'll start your future now, you're going to have an amazing opportunity to travel and see the world. I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but my wife and I have done about 40 cruises now. We've had an amazing life seeing the world and traveling and doing things. None of that would have been possible if I didn't start when I was 24 and start building for my future. So, of course, Mark's traveled more than me, but you've got to put it in motion if you're going to make something happen.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any last words, Austin?
No, this has been awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you, Mark.
Thanks very much. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.